With this Brittney Griner trade for that arms dealer scares the shit out of me.
I had one passive I had like one understanding of it. So she broke a rule. The rule seems like not that big of a deal.
It's nothing.
The WNBA is in complete meltdown mode right now. Joe Rogan just dropped a truth bomb that exposed the league's biggest secrets.
Brittney Griner for Victor Bout by falsely claiming that it wasn't Rush's decision to oppose Whelan's release as opposed to Griner.
Brittney Griner is at the center of a firestorm with hidden footage surfacing, and Sophie Cunningham is being crucified for speaking common sense. This isn't just about basketball. This is about biological reality, about protecting women's sports.
It comes just to protecting young girls in sport and women in sport. I feel very strongly about that.
About the double standard the media refuses to expose. Today, we're breaking down everything. The Rogan takedown, the Griner secrets, the Cunningham truth, and the WNBA's panic. Let's get into it. Joe Rogan's brutal truth bomb. It started with a podcast. Just another episode of the Joe Rogan Experience. Millions of people tuning in, as they do every single day. But this episode, this one was different. Joe Rogan, the man with arguably the biggest platform in the entire world, sat down and did something that nobody expected. He told the truth, and not just any truth. He exposed the WNBA's biggest contradiction, their deepest hypocrisy, the thing they have been desperately trying to hide from the public for years. If you can't define what a woman is, then you're an idiot, and this is nonsense, and that's what your ideology is. Your ideology is so stupid, you can't define the difference between a male and a female. Let that sink in for just a moment. Joe Rogan is not some random guy on the internet with a tiny following. He is the most listened to podcaster on the planet. When he speaks, millions of people hear it. When he asks a question, people actually stop and think. And what he said about the WNBA? It hit like a nuclear bombshell. He called out the league for painting themselves into a corner, for being so terrified of being canceled that they completely abandoned common sense, for choosing ideology over reality, for prioritizing activists over athletes. And so you've decided that people identifying with something means it's a real thing, and you have to say it because everybody else says it, and they scare you, and they'll cancel you and go after you. So everyone's agreed to nonsense. That is exactly what has happened. The WNBA leadership, the corporate sponsors, the media outlets, they all agreed to nonsense. They all decided that feelings matter more than facts, that identity trumps biology, that inclusivity is more important than fairness. And now, they are paying the price. But Rogan didn't just stop at the WNBA's hypocrisy. He went deeper, much deeper. He connected the dots in a way that nobody else has been willing to do. He talked about how biological males have been beating the hell out of biological females in combat sports. How he watched it happen with his own eyes. How he saw women getting destroyed in the ring.
It is wrong for biological men to be in women's sports. She knows that, I know that. She's on the right side of this issue.
Not because they weren't skilled, not because they didn't train hard enough, but because they were competing against people with fundamental biological advantages that no amount of training can overcome. What are we doing? Like, why are we cheering this on? That question stopped me in my tracks when I first heard it. Why are we cheering this on? Why are we celebrating when biological males dominate biological females? Why are we pretending that this is progress? And then Rogan laid out the simplest solution in the history of solutions. Something so basic, so obvious, so grounded in science that it should not even be controversial. We know XX chromosome, you're a woman. XY, you're a dude. Do it that way. Call yourself whatever the hell you want. But if you want to play in the WNBA, you have to have XX. It is so simple, so clear, so undeniably correct. And yet, the WNBA's leadership is so terrified of activist pressure that they cannot even say it. They cannot even acknowledge basic biological reality. They cannot even protect the very athletes they are supposed to serve. Now, Rogan is not the only one speaking truth here. Far from it. Experts across the sports world have been saying the same thing for years, highlighting the fact that fundamental genetics underlies biological reality. XX chromosomes for women and XY for men, and cautioning that permitting biological males to participate in female sports totally undermines the essential safeguards that Title IX was designed to offer. Title IX, the law that was supposed to protect women's sports. The law that opened doors for millions of female athletes. The law that is now being systematically dismantled in the name of inclusion. It is absolutely infuriating. But Rogan was not the only one making waves. Because while he was dismantling the WNBA's position in his podcast studio, a WNBA player was about to say something that would make the internet explode. Something that would divide the sports world right down the middle. And what she said? It changed everything. It exposed the fault lines that have been hiding beneath the surface for years. And it forced everyone, players, fans, commentators, executives, to pick a side. Let's get into that next. Brittney Griner sparks, a firestorm. Imagine being a female athlete for just one moment. You have trained your entire life, thousands of hours in the gym, thousands of miles on the court. You have sacrificed everything, your time, your body, your social life, your mental health, to compete at the highest level. You have earned your spot through blood, sweat, and tears. You have beaten the odds. You have proven yourself. And then someone looks you in the eye and says, "It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman." That is exactly what Brittney Griner said. It really don't make a difference if you say he or she. To me, when I'm out in public, I don't care. Now, at first glance, you might think she is just being accepting.
It really don't make a difference if you say he or she to me. Like when I'm out in public, I don't care.
Yeah.
Open-minded, progressive, inclusive. You know all the buzzwords that corporations love to throw around. But let me ask you something, and I want you to really think about this. If a man can just walk into women's sports and claim to be a woman without any medical transition, without any biological changes, without any consideration for fairness, then what is the point of having women's sports at all? That is the question that nobody in the WNBA wants to answer. That is the elephant in the room. That is the uncomfortable truth that they are desperately trying to ignore. Griner took it even further. She said, "Everyone deserves the right to play." And on the surface, that sounds nice. It sounds inclusive. It sounds like something we should all support. Who doesn't want everyone to have the right to play? But here is the problem. When you say everyone deserves the right to play, you are ignoring one fundamental, unchangeable biological reality: biology. Men are bigger, men are stronger, men have more muscle mass, men have greater bone density, men have larger lung capacity, men have higher hemoglobin levels that allow for greater oxygen delivery to muscles. These are not opinions, these are not social constructs. These are scientific facts that have been proven over and over again through decades of research. And when you allow biological males to compete against biological females, you are not being inclusive. You are being unfair. You are destroying the very reason women's sports exist in the first place. You are telling every young girl who dreams of being an athlete that her dreams don't matter, that fairness doesn't matter, that biology doesn't matter. Legendary tennis star Martina Navratilova made this crystal clear. She is one of the greatest athletes in history. She has been a champion for women's sports for decades, and she said activists should respect the biological boundaries that safeguard women's spaces and cease attempting to redefine feminism. And she is absolutely right. But Griner, she doubled down. She refused to back down. She made it clear that she would keep pushing this agenda. Oh, I mean, that ranks high on the list of things that I'll be fighting for and speaking up against. Everyone deserves the right to play. Now, here is where it gets really interesting. Here is where the hypocrisy comes into sharp focus. The backlash was immediate. Major news networks criticized her. Female athletes across the world spoke out. Parents of young athletes were horrified. And the WNBA's leadership? They went into full panic mode. But here is what nobody is talking about. The same media outlets that have been attacking Sophie Cunningham for her common-sense position have been completely silent on Griner's radical stance. The same pundits who called Cunningham transphobic and hateful have given Griner a complete pass. Why? Why is it okay for one WNBA player to push a radical agenda while another WNBA player is destroyed for speaking biological reality?
after the Indiana Fever player spoke out against biological males competing in women's sports. They're calling it Sophie Night.
The double standard is blinding. But while Griner was making headlines and dividing the league, another WNBA player was about to do something even more courageous. Something that would put her career on the line. Something that would make her a target for every activist and media outlet in the country. She stood up and said what everyone was thinking. She looked the cameras in the eye and told the truth. And for that, for simply speaking the truth, they tried to destroy her. They tried to end her career. They tried to silence her forever. But she didn't back down. She refused to back down. Let's talk about Sophie Cunningham, the WNBA controversy that changed everything. Let me tell you about a woman with real courage. Not the kind of courage that gets you a participation trophy. Not the kind of courage that gets you praise from corporate media. The kind of courage that makes you stand alone when everyone else is running away. The kind of courage that makes you tell the truth, even when the truth is unpopular. Even when the truth could cost you everything. Sophie Cunningham plays guard for the Indiana Fever. She is talented. She is dedicated. She is a professional athlete in every sense of the word, but that is not what she is famous for now. Now, she is famous for doing something that very few people in the WNBA are willing to do. She said she wanted to protect young girls both on court and in the locker room.
I think people are going to take it how they want to take it, but I've never even really said anything about that. And so when it comes just to protecting young girls in sport and women in sport.
That's it. That is all she said. She wanted to protect young girls. And do you know what happened next? They came for her. With everything they had. She was called transphobic, bigoted, hateful, exclusionary, dangerous. All for saying, common sense? Since when is wanting to protect women and girls considered hateful? Since when is wanting to ensure safety and fairness in locker rooms considered bigoted? Since when is defending biological reality considered dangerous? I need you to think about that. Let's think about this for a second. Let's imagine a scenario. Imagine you are a young female athlete. You are 14 years old. You have worked your entire life to make it to this level. You are in a locker room. You are vulnerable. You are changing. And then a biological male walks in. A person who is physically larger than you, physically stronger than you, someone with fully developed male anatomy. You are uncomfortable. You are scared. You feel violated. You feel like your privacy has been completely destroyed. But you are told, this is inclusive. This is progressive. Get with the times. You are being hateful if you object. That is insanity. That is absolute, complete, total insanity. Sophie Cunningham called her position kind of common sense, and she was right. Absolutely, completely, undeniably right. Here is the thing. Cunningham is not alone. Some of the biggest names in sports history have backed her up. Some of the most respected voices in athletics have stood with her. Two-time Olympian Sharon Davies spoke out. She has competed at the highest level. She knows what fairness looks like. And she pointed out that unfair biological competition has already cost nearly 14,000 female athletes opportunities. Let me repeat that. 14,000. That is not a number. That is 14,000 dreams. 14,000 young women who trained their whole lives. 14,000 scholarships lost. 14,000 podium spots stolen. 14,000 careers derailed. And the WNBA leadership? They are trying to silence anyone who speaks up. They are trying to pretend this is not happening. They are hoping that if they ignore it long enough, it will just go away. The internet has nicknamed Sophie Cunningham MAGA Barbie. Why? Because she dared to stand up for biological reality.
Things are heating up in the WNBA right now, largely off the court, after Indiana Fever guard Sophie Cunningham voiced support for banning transgender girls and women in female sports in a recent ESPN interview.
Because she refused to bow to activist pressure. Because she said what everyone was thinking, but nobody was willing to say. But here is what they don't want you to know. Here is the truth that corporate media will never tell you. Fans are filling arenas to see her and Caitlin Clark. People who would never care about the WNBA are buying tickets. They are showing up in droves. Why? Because they respect athletes who stand for something real. Because they are tired of political theater. Because they want to watch great basketball. But Cunningham's courageous stand was not the only thing that got people talking. Not by a long shot. Because while the world was focused on this debate, while everyone was arguing about fairness and biology and inclusion, something else was happening. Something that the WNBA leadership desperately tried to hide. Something that, if it got out, would change everything. And now, it's out. Let's talk about the hidden footage. Let's talk about Griner's secret. Let's talk about what they didn't want you to see. The questions the WNBA can't ignore. Now it is time to talk about what they don't want you to see. This is the part of the video that makes the WNBA's executive staff absolutely terrified. This is the part that the corporate media is desperately trying to ignore. This is the truth that they hoped would stay buried forever. While everyone was focused on the transgender debate, while everyone was arguing about fairness and biology, the internet went digging. And what they found? It changed everything. Leaked footage started circulating. Viral videos, resurfaced media clips from years ago, online investigations by independent journalists. And they all pointed to one thing. The WNBA has been hiding Brittney Griner's secrets for years. Now, let me be very clear about what we are discussing here. This is not conspiracy theory. This is not speculation. This is not some fringe internet rumor. This is documented evidence. This is footage that exists. This is information that is publicly available if you know where to look. There is footage circulating that has left people absolutely stunned. It is not ambiguous. It is not misleading. It is real. It is undeniable. And it completely changes how you view this situation. A team of analysts on the popular commentary program Valuetainment examined the leaked video clips. They revived media footage from years ago. They looked at internet rumors about Griner's past. And they pointed out something absolutely crucial. The major sports networks have been completely silent about her time in Russian captivity. Why? Why is the media protecting her? Why are they not asking the hard questions? Why are they giving her a complete pass while destroying Sophie Cunningham for simply telling the truth? It makes no sense. Unless there is something they don't want us to know. Unless the narrative they are pushing is more important than the truth. Let's think about this honestly for a moment. Let's set aside politics. Let's set aside ideology. Let's just look at the facts. If anyone else had this kind of background, this kind of footage, it would be everywhere. 24/7 news coverage, endless speculation, non-stop scrutiny, panel discussions, expert analysis, breaking news alerts. But for Griner, crickets. Complete silence, radio silence, as if nothing happened. And here is what makes it even worse. Here is what absolutely infuriates me. The WNBA is using taxpayer money. They receive funding from public sources. They are supposed to be accountable to the public. They are supposed to be transparent. They are supposed to operate with integrity. But instead, they are hiding behind corporate phrases and diversity statements. They are hiding behind inclusion and equity and all the other buzzwords that mean absolutely nothing. They are attacking players like Sophie Cunningham.
Sophie Cunningham center stage. She told USA Today she can handle both the controversy and the basketball, and she seemed to drum up controversy out of thin air, stating that the WNBA commissioner, Kathy Engelbert,
while protecting players like Brittney Griner. While private athletic organizations can try to promote whatever narratives they choose, taxpayer-funded sports and educational opportunities must strictly uphold biological fairness, end quote. That is not radical. That is not extreme. That is common sense. This is a league that has been losing money for years, fighting for relevance, trying to stay afloat, desperately searching for an audience that will actually show up. And instead of building around genuine superstars like Caitlin Clark, instead of embracing common sense and protecting their athletes, they are alienating their fan base. They are pushing agendas that nobody asked for. They are destroying their own future. But there is one player who could save the entire league. One player who could bring them back from the brink. One player who represents everything that is good about women's basketball. Her name? Caitlin Clark. And she is the only hope the WNBA has left. Let's talk about Caitlin Clark and why she matters more than anyone in the league realizes. Caitlin Clark changed everything. Now what? Caitlin Clark is a phenomenon. I am not exaggerating. I am not hyperbolizing. I am stating an absolute fact. She is the Michael Jordan of women's basketball. She is the Tiger Woods. She is the LeBron James. She is the generational talent that comes along once in a lifetime and completely changes everything. She is pulling in record-breaking viewership numbers, ratings that the WNBA has never seen before. She is filling arenas across the entire country, arenas that used to be half empty, arenas that nobody cared about, arenas that are now completely sold out. People are spending $1,000 on tickets just to watch her play. $1,000 for a WNBA game. Let that sink in. Before Clark, the WNBA was struggling. There is no way to sugarcoat this. Attendance was down. Ratings were low. Sponsors were not interested. The league was bleeding money and fighting for relevance. Then Clark showed up. She's the girl that girls have been waiting for forever. And it is absolutely true. She broke viewing records that had stood for decades. She filled arenas all over the country. She gave women's basketball previously unheard of commercial significance. Suddenly, everyone wanted to watch. Suddenly, the WNBA was cool. Suddenly, women's basketball was a hot ticket. But the WNBA's leadership is completely wasting this moment. Instead of fully embracing Clark and building around her historic significance, they are letting activist narratives take over. Instead of promoting the game, they are promoting politics. Instead of celebrating incredible basketball, they are celebrating division. People want to see great basketball. They want to see elite competition. They want to see athletes like Clark and Cunningham compete at the highest level. They want to see incredible shots, amazing passes, clutch performances. They do not want political theater. They do not want activist lectures. They do not want to be told what to think. Millions of true sports enthusiasts flock to the stadium to witness Clark's thrilling play style, amazing shooting range, and unadulterated love of basketball. But league management? They are letting divisive culture wars overwhelm the game. They are prioritizing corporate talking points over what fans actually want. They are destroying their own future in the name of progress. And Joe Rogan pointed this out brilliantly. He made an observation that stopped me in my tracks. Crazy thing about the WNBA. Imagine if the NBA had the same dynamic. Imagine if the most of the team was a bunch of gay dudes who were like very aggressive and black. It is a fascinating observation. The WNBA is embracing a dynamic that would never fly in the NBA. Can you imagine the NBA promoting that? Can you imagine the backlash? Why is it okay for the WNBA to push agendas that the NBA would never touch? Why is there one standard for men's sports and another for women's sports? It is a double standard, and fans are sick of it. The more controversy there is, the more people come to watch. Controversy drives attention. Attention drives ratings. Ratings drive revenue. But here is the thing. Controversy brings attention, but it does not build loyalty. It does not build sustainable fan bases. It does not build lasting success. It just creates a circus. And eventually, the circus gets old. People move on. The controversy fades. And you are left with nothing. But it does not have to be this way. It does not have to end in disaster. The WNBA has a golden opportunity. They have Caitlin Clark. They have Sophie Cunningham. They have athletes who genuinely represent what sports should be about. Excellence, competition, fairness, integrity. They need to embrace common sense. They need to stop appeasing vocal activist groups. They need to fully support their superstars. They need to focus on basketball. If they do not, if they continue down this path, they risk squandering this historic moment forever. They risk alienating their fans permanently. They risk destroying everything that women's basketball has worked so hard to build. So where do we go from here? Let's wrap this up. So here's where we stand. The WNBA is at a crossroads. Sophie Cunningham is risking everything to defend biological reality. Activists? They're pushing agendas that ignore science. Joe Rogan exposed the hypocrisy. Griner divided the league. Cunningham stood her ground. And Caitlin Clark? She's the only hope for women's basketball's future. So I'm asking you, who do you stand with? Drop your thoughts below. Like, subscribe, and share this video. Join our community of truth tellers. This isn't about politics. This is about protecting female athletes. This is about fairness. This is about biological reality. That's not radical. That's common sense. We'll see you in the next one.